Hi, how are you? My name is David Mail, and today I'm going to look at media policy, but a section of media policy. And today we look at media content and languages and the existing policies and regulations. Specifically, I'm going to look at the Kenyan context, and we are going to look at the media content specifically, the language, and also the existing policy and regulation. So this is simply a thought paper on media content, languages, and the existing policies and regulations that have been set aside by the country. So in our introduction, we are going to look at definition of terms. Number two, we will look at the body, and the body will comprise of reasons why media content and language is usually regulated. And the next thing, we look at existing policies and regulations that is under the body regarding media content and language in Kenya today, and their suitability in safeguarding the public interest. Then we are going to have our conclusion, and finally, the references. So these are the definition of terms that we are going to use. And we are saying that for us to get the and understand what really media content is, then we also have to understand or to define some terms separately. Then we are going to rejoin these three terms together so that at least we see where we are going to. Now, when you talk about the media is any instrument or any tool that is used as a channel of communication. Any instrument or tool that is used as a channel of communication to a large number of people and in a large geographical area. And examples of media, we are talking about radio, we are talking about television, film, social media, newspaper, magazines, and so on and so forth. Then what is content? Content is any information that is sent through the media channel. For example, when you send any information through radio, any information through television, through film, or even social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, that is what we call content. Any information sent through the media channel for consumption by this large audience or this big group of people. Example of content includes news. Sometimes we receive news through WhatsApp, through social media. Sometimes we receive news through radio. Sometimes we receive news through film, through social media, through newspapers, through magazines, and so on and so forth. Example of content also include music. We get music mostly from TV, from radio, and also from YouTube, and so on and so forth. Fashion shows, drama, sports, etc., etc. Those are what we call content. That it is any information that is sent through these media channels for consumption by large audiences. We've given the example of media content. Then now we talk about language. When you talk about language, everyone knows the answer, but no one has given any standard definition that fully explains the term language. So therefore, we are saying that language can be understood in terms of properties. And according to Edward Sapir, 1921, a purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas. It's a purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, of communicating emotions and desires by means of voluntarily produced symbols. So we move on. So media content and language is usually a critical object of media policy. It's a very critical object of media policy, and we are going to see that. And regulation in almost all jurisdictions for a variety of, there must be regulation in almost all jurisdictions for a variety of reasons. Because in the Kenyan Constitution, we know very well that the media has been given the freedom of expression, and the media, the freedom of expression, that's one thing. Freedom of distributing and disseminating information to the public. But again, we must know that as far as where freedom exists, there also should be what we call regulation. Where we are given freedom, then there must be what we call regulation. Regulation has to be there, because if regulation is not there, then the media is going to overstep its mandate. And if it oversteps its mandate, then it will find itself in the hot part of everything. Now, now we are saying that media content and language is critical object of media policy and regulation in almost all jurisdictions for a variety of reasons. So why is there what we call media regulation? Media regulation, it can be used to promote hatred. Now we are saying that media content and language is a critical object of media policy. Media content and language is a critical object of media policy and regulation in almost all jurisdictions for a variety of reasons. So therefore, we are saying that media content and language regulation is very critical. Why? Because when you talk about media content and language, the content that the media uses and the language that it uses, number one, it can be used to promote hatred and violence. It can also be used to spread misinformation and disinformation and exploit vulnerable populations. If we give the media the freedom to actually disseminate any kind of information using any type of language, then that information, it can be used to promote hatred and violence. We can think of in Kenya during post-election 2007, 2008 post-election violence. At that particular time, the media acted as a fourth estate, and also it acted as a fifth column. When a media acts as a fourth estate, it simply means that it is doing its work as it is supposed to. When it acts as a fifth column, then it simply means that it's not doing its work. For example, during post-election 2007, 2008, the media was used to disseminate information of what was happening around the country. And at the same time, the media acted as a fifth column by doing what we call inciting hatred. For example, where they showed that some people from a certain tribe have been killed, injustices have been done to them, then the media acted as a fifth column. Number two reason why media content and language is a very sensitive area, the reasons for regulating media content and language vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but the objectives are typically to protect the public safety, to promote democratic values, and to protect vulnerable populations. If we do not regulate the content, if we do not regulate the language that the media use, then it simply means what? That the public will not be safe, that democratic values are not going to be taken seriously, and vulnerable populations are going to suffer, like children. If the media uses what we call obnoxious language, if the media uses what we call content that depicts sexuality and sexual things or sexual matters, then this is going to affect a vulnerable population as children, those who don't understand anything. And finally, you will hear them uttering terms that they have learned from the media. In some jurisdiction, point number 3, it is used as a tool to promote national unity or to protect national security. So therefore, we are saying that media language and content, sometimes it's not only we are not looking at it negatively, but also positively, it can be used to promote national unity or to protect national security. How? For example, when we have these what we call patriotic songs that are being taught to our children in primary schools, in kindergartens. This one is used to promote national unity and to make them understand what Kenya is all about and the country, what the country is all about, what it boasts itself on, and so on and so forth, or boosts itself upon. So then media content and the language that is involved, media content and the language that is involved in text, sound, images, music, and any upload on the internet must be subjected to very strict rules and regulations to protect freedom of expression and the media freedom, and to regulate media markets, to also regulate ownership, infrastructure, and technical standards, and importantly, protect public interest and also public rights privacy. So then we're also saying that if media is allowed to run without control and guidance, then that industry will infringe the right of citizens. For example, imagine a country where the media has been given 100% freedom. No restriction, no nothing. I think this will be the worst part to live in, because the media will run without control and guidance, and it will infringe on the rights of citizens. It will infringe on the privacy of citizens. It will mislead the public. It will erode the morals of the society. It will spread distorted information. And worst of all, media will run as a parallel force to governmental policies or even be a propaganda and a hate message center. So that's why the media needs to be regulated in terms of content, and it needs to be regulated in terms of the language that it uses. Because if it doesn't, then there are consequences, and severe consequences, to the government, to the public, and also to the media itself. So in the current society, the media has penetrated deeply into the most remote areas. All it seems like life is dependent on the media. That's very true. You find that everybody is like depending on the media on anything. So controls on the language that is being used by the media fraternity is very crucial, and it must be regulated. In our 21st century, you realize that the media is at the forefront. Almost everybody is depending on the media in terms of getting news, in terms of getting information, in terms of even getting advice, in terms of getting what we call guidelines. People are depending so much on the media. And if at all we are going to depend so much on the media, then the media language should be a language that is desirable, the language that communicate, the language that is used must be language that does not bring about disunity, the language that brings about unity, the language that brings about respect, and so on and so forth. So control on language that is being used by the media fraternity is very critical and must be regulated. So the youth, on the other hand, and the society as a whole, are keen on copying and imitating literally everything they hear and see on the media. This one is very true. Nowadays, with the advent of what we call TikTok, with the advent of what we call Instagram, and any other social media, almost every youth is copying what they see on social media, even on the films that we are watching, Nigerian movies from the West, and so on and so forth. The youth is copying almost everything that they watch on the movie, including dressing, including the language, including those things. And so if people are going to copy the media or content of the media, then the media must be regulated. Otherwise, we are going to have what we call moral decay. So the available videos are a center of attraction to them. Example, videos from the West, videos from Africa, videos from Kenya, video from all over the country. They are available and they are a center of attraction to them. Like there is a research that was done by, I think these are theory, Bandura's theory, and Bandura's theory did, but in his research or in his work, this is what he did. He realized that children who watched violent movie, they became violent. And those that did not watch violent movie did not become violent. You can go and look for the Bandura's theory. It explains why children, when they watch violent movies or violent programs or content, they become violent. And it is a clear indication that videos are centers of attraction to people, to children. And when it comes to dancing and actions on the films, these youth or these people or the public, they are quick and perfect to copy and also to switch to the fashion they see it. Like, our youth, that is what they do. So if vulgar language, therefore, is not prohibited, if obnoxious pictures are not prohibited, if obnoxious and what we call obscene materials are not prohibited, then it means that a dirty song aired on radio or even transmitted on TV, maybe today evening, is what you will wake up in the morning to see. So the same applies to fashion. The same applies to dressing styles. The public have a quick way to adopt the dressing styles and fashions that they find on the media. These ones, they call it fashion. It's called fashion. Any fashion that is any fashion that comes up, maybe from the West, the Africans are fast to copy that particular fashion. So that is it. So if the fashion is the one that depicts, or the fashion is the one that portrays obscenity and obscene or something that is not good, maybe I'm thinking of clothing, the styles that have come up. You know, it's against the African culture for a lady to expose parts of her body. And you realize that some fashions are usually coming from the West, and the African ladies and also gentlemen are copying these fashions that actually erodes what we call the culture, the African culture. So on the other hand, we are saying that politicians have a way of influencing and attracting media coverage if controls are not put in place. You know, politicians are leaders, and we know very well that leaders usually have followers. And if a politician can influence and attract media coverage and use vulgar language or use obnoxious language, if controls are not put in place, that said arrogance that said greed, and that said corruption that the politician class rides on will soon actually find its way even to the most remote locality, just as a copy that we see of celebrity imitating our streets and localities. So due to increase in sales in commercial products that neither pay attention on the viewer's reaction, there is a need to put in regulations and policies that will protect viewers from such commercial sales of products. So it is noted that the broadcast media uses this to their advantage, since they know that the viewer have no choice in choosing what advert they want to watch. Actually, this is what happens in the advertising world. You find that adverts are just run on TV. Because they're being run on TV, the viewer has not said that he wants to see that advert. It's actually they are being forced on the viewers. So then, let's move to the next thing. And this one, we are going to talk about Kenya. We are saying that there was a period in Kenya where television could play adverts on alcohol. That one, actually adverts on alcohol was the order of the day. There was a period in Kenya where TV could play adverts on alcohol, cigarette smoking, in between news breaks that took place at 7 p.m. And the advertisers did not bother whether such content was harmful to children or not. Because you can imagine an alcohol, a very beautiful or a very high quality and a very high-end advert running on TV about alcohol. And children are viewing, mothers are watching, our ladies are watching, and so on and so forth. And there is a very nice advert on alcohol going on. What does that mean? It simply means that alcohol is good and we should try it out. I think that's the reason why alcohol adverts were banned, and also cigarettes adverts were banned. So during that time, an alarm was raised due to the high number of children that got trapped in school consumption, which called for strict regulations and policies to be put in place and followed, to which till today the policies are still in place. No such ad can be played before 10 p.m. Again, you realize that also in Kenyan government, they came up with policies, and they said that if there's a nearby school, then alcohol manufacturing industry and also tobacco manufacturing industry should not place those adverts close to schools, because it simply means that when these teenagers or when these children see those adverts, of course, they look very attractive. Adverts are usually very attractive. They'll be attracted to such adverts, and the next day they'll go and buy the content that they saw on those particular adverts. So a few years ago, a local FM station, that is Ghetto FM, introduced an actor. His name was Mbuzi, as their presenter for the evening drive program. So he became popular because he used a street language that is a mix of English, Kiswahili, and some vernacular, which is referred to in Kenya as Sheng. So known as Sheng, sometimes you can call it, Sheng is a language that you find in so many countries that you cannot understand it. Yeah, Sheng. A few years later, the distorted language, English language, is now being spoken by everyone in the streets across the countries in Kenya. So if you come to Kenya, you hear people talking a language that you cannot understand. That is because of this particular radio station, which has spread this language called Sheng, and people are speaking the Sheng you visit ghettos in Kenya, you realize that that is the kind of language that they use. You'll even hear this kind of language being spoken by people who are working in the social. And this is an example of how the media can be used to distort even the policies, even the values, even the language, and so on and so forth. So on the same note, we are saying that on the same note of language, we are saying that the content of Ghetto Radio by presenter Mbuzi has given birth to an improved Sheng. In fact, they came up with what we call Sheng Dictionary. That if you want to learn Sheng, there is a dictionary that has been published. So if you call food like this, then in a Sheng dictionary, there is the way they call food. If you call work like this, work, I mean work when you go to work, the term work, then if you go to the Sheng dictionary, there is a word that means work. So we are saying on the same note of language, the content of Ghetto Radio by presenter Mbuzi has given birth to an improved Sheng that's being used by slum dwellers. So the language has proved difficult and meant for a few who have mastered it. So it is now a communication barrier and a problem to the society because the youth think it is a fashion and they are diverting away from the official language. That is very true in Kenya, not only in Kenya, but in so many countries. If you visit Nigeria, they have this language called Pidgin. If you visit South Africa, they have their own language. And this is a language that you cannot understand. This is a language of the slum dwellers. And sometimes this language, where they learn it from, is from some social media or from some radio stations, like in Kenya, the Ghetto Radio, and so on and so forth. So in some years to come, you may find that English language is so much mutated, so much distorted, and because of these languages that are coming now. And also, again, you find that our youth will not be able to communicate effectively, efficiently, eloquently, using what we call the official language. So let's look at reasons why media content and language should be regulated. So when you talk about reasons why media content and language is regulated, we are saying that the objective of media content and language regulation, it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. That is very true. It varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. But the overall goal is typically to protect the public safety. How? Content. If the media brings about violent content, the youth will copy the behaviors from what they watch. The children will copy the behaviors from where they watch, of what they watch. And whatever they watch, they are going to practice on their fellow human beings. Like I happened to watch a TikTok video. There was a viral clip that was going on social media of a young boy from the West, very young. And he was saying that he likes killing, he loves killing. And the boy said that when he grows up, he's going to be a killer. He will kill everybody in the whole world except the dad and the mom. Now, in my imagination, I thought that this kid has watched a lot of violent movies to a point that the conscience of this child is already dead. He doesn't see anything big. No, he doesn't see anything big about killing. So killing is just fun. So therefore, we are saying, but the overall goal of content and language being regulated is to do what? Is to protect public safety. It's also to promote democratic values. It's also to protect the vulnerable population like children, like the example that I've just given. That child is vulnerable and the parents has exposed this kid into watching what we call violent movies. Now, regulating media content and language is usually what we call a complex task, and there is no one size fits for all situations. So jurisdiction must be carefully tailored, or must carefully tailor their media content and language regulation to their specific needs. And so another reason why media content and language is regulated in almost all jurisdictions is to protect children from harmful and inappropriate content. Children, we have looked at, I told you to go and find out on Bandura's theory that talks about children. When you expose children into violent content, those children are likely to become violent in future. This also reminds me when I was very young, when wrestling was WWE, World, I don't know, yeah, WWE. We would watch, it was coming on Sunday. We would watch it on Sunday, and the following day in the morning, we were in school on Monday, and we would practice what we saw the player doing, to a point that wrestling started coming up with what we called warning messages that do not try this at home. And so many kids during that time, some of them died. Some of them injured other children. Like, for example, breaking their necks, breaking their legs, and so on and so forth. So in many jurisdictions, there are laws and regulations that requires media organization to ensure that their content is appropriate for children. And in some jurisdictions, media organizations are required to label their content according to age appropriateness. For example, you have seen programs starting PG, parental guidance is advised, or 18, this program is for the children above the age of 18, or children above the age of 14, or below the age of 10, or something like that. So that one is to tell you as a parent that when you see a program written, this program is not appropriate for children below the age of 18, then what you should do is you should look for something that your children can do, but not watch that particular program. So in some jurisdictions, media organizations are required to label their content according to its age appropriateness, while in others, they are required to air children's programming at specific times of the day. For example, we know children are awake, especially when they have closed their schools. They wake up very early in the morning from 6. They are awake until around 8 p.m. And then from 8 p.m., then the media can bring programs that are appropriate for people above 18 years. So then we move on and we are saying, so another reason for regulating media content and language is to protect consumer from false or misleading advertising. And in many jurisdictions, there are laws and regulations that prohibit media organizations from airing false or misleading advertisements. Yes, this one we have seen. There are some adverts that are run on TV and radio that are usually misleading. For example, an advert can tell you that when you consume this product, this is what will happen to your body. Or when you apply this particular lotion, then your skin is going to be smooth. And upon applying this lotion, you find that your skin deteriorates or it becomes worse than it was before. that is a misleading advert. And therefore, there are some jurisdiction, and in many jurisdictions, there are laws and regulations that prohibit media organizations from airing those particular misleading adverts. And in some jurisdictions, the media organizations are required to disclose certain information about their products, services, and in their advertisements. For example, just the other day, some years ago, Kenyan manufacturers, or the association, the Kenyan Manufacturers Association, and also with other bodies in the government, they came up with a law and a policy. Is it a policy? Yeah, a policy. And they said that consumers are those people who manufacture consumable products like drinks. They come up with a very good, what we call a very good packet, and then they put a very beautiful picture of a fruit. But in the real sense, that particular packet, what they put in the packet is chemicals. So they actually, that policy stated that whenever a manufacturer manufactures content, for example, a drink, then on the box it should state it's a drink, but not a juice, and also the content of that drink. If it contains citric acid, stabilizers, and some chemicals, that is what should be put on the box. But initially they used to do the opposite. You know very well you have put some chemicals, citric acid, stabilizers, and so on and so forth. But on the outer cover, you label juice, which of course is not a pure fruit juice. So in some jurisdictions, that's what we are saying. Media organizations are required to disclose certain information about their products and services in the advertisements, while in others, they are prohibited from making such claims about their products or services. So let's look at existing policies and regulations regarding media content and languages, and particularly we are looking at Kenya and their suitability in safeguarding the public interest. The bodies that manage and regulate the media, such as the Media Society of Kenya, the Media Council of Kenya, and the Communication Authority, that is CA, and other media regulation bodies in Kenya are internationally should restrict the dispensing, should be strict in dispensing their role of regulation. And this will install discipline and maintain order and in content and language. So if content is not managed and regulated in media, then the negative impact will see our societies moral eroded, behaviors and characters change, and cultures interfered with or replaced with foreign cultures. On the other hand, we have the Kenya Film Classification Board Act of 2015. It establishes a system of rating films and television programs, but some critics argue that the system is not transparent enough and that does not adequately consider the cultural context of the country. Overall, the existing policies and regulations regarding media content and language in Kenya are not perfect, but they do provide some protection for the public interest. And there's some concern that the laws are not adequate to safeguard the public interest, that the government is taking steps to address these concerns. So the existing policies and regulations regarding media content and language in Kenya today are the Kenya Information and Communication Act and the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation Act. And these laws are designed to protect the public interest by ensuring that the media content is accurate and objective, and that the broadcasters use appropriate language. However, these laws are not always effective in practice, and there have been several instances of media outlets publishing inaccurate or biased information or actually using what we call offensive language. So there is also the Media Council of Kenya, which is an independent body that regulates the media industry. The Media Council can investigate complaints about media outlets and impose sanctions if they are found to be in breach of code of conduct. Now, what the Media Council of Kenya does, the Media Council of Kenya comes up with what we call the codes of conduct that must be followed by journalists. So the Media Council is independent, so it comes up with the code of conduct that all the media fraternity must follow. So every journalist in any media house in Kenya must follow those codes of conduct. And then there is what we call the Press Complaint Commission. And the Press Complaint Commission, or the PCC, it actually punishes the journalists that do what we call goes against the codes of conduct stipulated by the Media Council of Kenya. So what happens is that if you are a citizen, or if you are an organization and you have a complaint concerning a certain content that the media aired, or concerning some behaviors of a certain journalist or a certain media house, then you should write a complaint to the Press Complaint Commission. Then the Press Complaint Commission will liaise with the Media Council of Kenya and summon the journalist or summon the media house. And if the media house or the journalist persists in that particular behavior, then an action is taken by the Press Complaint Commission concerning the media house or that journalist. So that's how the Media Council and the Press Complaint Commission work. Then we also have the Kenya Film Classification Board, which has the power to ban or censor films and television programs that is considered to be offensive or harmful to the public. That is the work of the Kenya Classification Board. In conclusion, I can say that dirty views and shows, for example, those associated to pornography, that are associated to nudity, bad morals as war and bad behavior, should be abolished and avoided. Why? So as not to expose and encourage the youth and the society as a whole to misleading habits and behaviors. Equally, the same regulators should tighten their stand on use of appropriate and proper languages. So dirty languages should never be encouraged whatsoever, however indirect it may be. Instances where vernacular is used, let the media stick to keeping that vernacular as original as it is supposed to be as possible. So having said that, thank you for watching this particular presentation. I hope it has helped you. For more details, just click on the YouTube channel, like, and also subscribe to that YouTube channel because more content are on the way. I'm also planning on how you're going to get the content through my blog posts. Thank you so much. See you next time.